Salutations. Today's briefing, US MPF versus China's Type 15, aka ZTQ 15, light tank comparison. What actually is a light tank as opposed to an assault gun, a fire support vehicle or an infantry support vehicle? The norm is to call a vehicle that has tracks and a large caliber gun, which in today's world would be at least a 105mm, a light tank. But it doesn't really matter what name is used. What is important is the purpose of the vehicle and what capabilities it has. I don't normally do comparison briefings, but these two vehicles could find themselves up against each other regardless of what they're called. This briefing will examine the strengths and weaknesses of the US's new Mobile Protected Firepower Vehicle, the MPF, and the Chinese Type 15 or ZTQ 15 light tank. Before getting into the briefing, I want to thank all the supporters of the channel who have helped me get to 2,000 subscribers. The MPF, which will no doubt be named after an Army general at some stage, is classified by the US as an infantry support vehicle, whose role is to provide direct fire support for light infantry units. It is not a replacement for the M1 Abrams in any way, and the US Army makes it quite clear it is not a light tank. Whatever it is labelled, the role of the MPF is not a new one for the US Army. What came before the MPF? Does it replace an existing capability, or is it a new capability? Many will be familiar with the US Army's M1128 mobile gun system, the MGS, a wheeled armoured vehicle whose role was to provide direct fire support for the Striker brigades. The Striker brigade combat teams are broadly similar to the PLA's medium combined arms brigades. See separate briefing link below. Based on the same hull as the Striker ICV, the MGS weighs 18.8 tonnes, has a crew of 3, armed with a 105mm gun, and carries 18 rounds. It was in service from 2006 to 2022 with 142 built. The MGS was a good idea in theory, but due to problems with the gun system and poor readiness, it was taken out of service. But the MPF is not replacing the MGS. What the US did consider as a light tank was the M551 Sheridan. Weighing 15 tonnes, with a crew of 4, armed with a 152mm gun, it carried 29 rounds. It was in service from 1967 to 1996, with over 1,600 built. Interestingly, it was taken out of service at the same time that the US retired its 105mm armed M1 tanks. Notably, its main gun could fire an anti-tank guided missile. It was used by many units, including the 82nd Airborne, and was amphibious and air-droppable. When the Sheridan was retired, the tracked infantry fire support capabilities for light units was lost. Until now. The MPF is classified as an armoured infantry support vehicle and effectively a replacement for the M55 Sheridan. Weighing 38 tonnes, it has a power to weight ratio of 21.1 horsepower per tonne. A crew of 4, armed with a 105mm gun, but with an unknown number of rounds. It is due to enter service in 2025, with over 500 due to be built. Its role is to support light infantry units by taking out bunkers, machine gun nests, and light armoured vehicles. It has been described as a scaled-down Abrams tank on a modified Ascot hull. The MPF's fire control system is said to be as good as the M1's, with a CITV and second-generation thermal sight for the gunner. In terms of protection, the MPF side skirts have some ballistic profile. Note at this stage, the MPF is unlikely to be fitted with a remote weapon station and hasn't been seen with ERA. The MPF has lots of tie-down and lifting points, which aid strategic mobility, and 2 can be carried in a C-17, lots of stowage bins, and lots of cameras, which are important for a vehicle working in close proximity to dismounted infantry, so all positives. There are a number of unknowns with the MPF. Will it get a 105mm version of the advanced multi-purpose round? Will ERA be fitted, and if so, where? Note its role in working in close proximity to dismounted infantry. Will it have laser warning receivers? Will it be fitted with an active protection system? Again, note working in close proximity to dismounted infantry. From the prototype, it is clear that crew escape is a major consideration for the MPF, with egress hatches on the turret and hull, something you don't see on many AFVs. So the MPF meets the Army requirement for an armoured vehicle that can provide large calibre direct fire support to light infantry units, and to have good tactical and strategic mobility. It is planned that the MPF will equip the 82nd Airborne in 2025 and select Army National Guard and the 173rd Airborne Brigade in 2027, with a total of 504 being procured by 2035. An important consideration is the logistics train that a unique armoured vehicle will bring to these light infantry units. All comments are based on the trialled prototype, which has been called a close to final production model, but some changes could occur. We can be more certain about the capabilities of the Type 15. The Type 15, or the ZTQ 15, is the PLA's new light tank, and in some ways more modern than the ZTZ-99As found in the PLA's premier armoured formations. But the ZTQ 15 is not a new capability for the PLA. The Type 62, which was a lightened derivative of the Type 59, itself a copy of the Soviet T-54 tank, was a light tank purposely designed to operate in China's southern region, so complex terrain including mountains, swamps, etc. Eventually upgraded starting in 2000 to the T-62G, it weighed around 25 tonnes, had a crew of 4, armed with a 105mm gun, and carried around 34 rounds. It was in service from 1963 to around 2013, with over 1,500 built. The G upgrade also replaced the cast turret with a new welded flat plate turret. Now I won't be discussing the Type 63A amphibious tank here, which also mounted a 105mm gun. The PLA has been using the 105mm tank gun since around 1984, enhancing the gun's performance and developing new ammunition, including anti-tank guided missiles. The PLA's use of the 105mm gun has continued with its introduction onto assault guns that support the PLA Ground Force's medium combined arms brigades with the ZTL-11 and the Ground Force Amphibious Combined Arms Brigade and Marines Heavy Battalions utilising the ZTD-05. See separate briefings. Both vehicles make use of the standard 105mm rounds and anti-tank guided missiles. Given this history, the development of a specialised light tank armed with a 105mm gun for the PLA should not be surprising. The ZTQ-15 is the latest and in some ways most advanced PLA armoured vehicle, weighing between 33 to 36 tonnes depending on its armour configuration, has a power to weight ratio of 27.8 horsepower per tonne, has a crew of 3 armed with a 105mm gun and carries 38 rounds. It's been in service since around 2018 with the number built somewhere around 300. Note the main gun can fire anti-tank guided missiles, and both commander and gunner have second generation thermal imaging. It is also armed with a remote weapons station comprising a 12.7mm machine gun and 35mm automatic grenade launcher. The 1000 horsepower engine has oxygen generators to help it operate at high altitudes, and in terms of strategic mobility, 2 can be carried in a Y-20 transport aircraft. It has no composite armour but is fitted with ERA and laser warning receivers. A hard kill active protection system has been demonstrated but unknown if fitted to operational vehicles. Importantly, the PLA have developed a ZTQ-15 based Armoured Recovery Vehicle ARV to support the light tank. Certainly the PLA has larger ARVs in service, but if you need to be recovered, you want the ARV to be able to get to you. In service since around 2018, the ZTQ-15 has been seen deployed to the Southern Theatre Command in the 75th Group Army and the Western Theatre Command. It has a requirement to operate in mountains, at high altitude and in soft terrain. Note it appears as though the ZTQ-15 is deployed in heavy combined arms brigades, so replacing main battle tanks and therefore in the role of a tank, and in mountain combined arms brigades where they fill the role of supporting dismounted infantry in the same way as the MPF. To summarise, in terms of firepower, both have 105mm guns, which is appropriate for both vehicles' roles. However, the ZTQ-15s may be a longer calibre and fires anti-tank guided missiles. The ZTQ-15 also has a remote weapon station. The MPF's fire control system is essentially an M1 system, so it'll be very good, while the ZTQ appears to have the latest technology available to the PLA. In terms of protection, both have steel armour. An ERA has been seen on the ZTQ-15, but only on the front of the turret and hull, and apparently will be able to be fitted to the MPF, although where on the vehicle it would be fitted might be difficult, and of course the issues of ERA when the vehicle is operating close to dismounted infantry. The ZTQ has laser warning receivers, but these are not yet seen on the MPF. A hard kill APS system has been tested on the ZTQ-15, but not yet seen on inactive service. It is likely that the MPF will be able to be fitted with APS, but this is not confirmed. In terms of mobility, the ZTQ-15 has a significantly better power-to-weight ratio, and using the Mark I eyeball, given the length and width of the track on the ground and overall weight, it appears as though the ZTQ-15 will have lower ground pressure. In conclusion, it is important to note the different design requirements for the two vehicles. Also, it appears as though the PLA had time to develop the ZTQ-15 with a clean sheet approach, whereas the US needed something on a quicker time frame, so modified heavily an existing vehicle in the form of the British Ajax. And there are other considerations outside of firepower, protection and mobility. The MPF has additional crew escape options with the turret and hull egress hatches, and a significant benefit in terms of training existing Abrams crews to convert to the MPF. The MPF also appears shorter in overall length and when the gun's turned 90 degrees, meaning an advantage when operating in close terrain. Might the egress hatches and external stowage limit the application of ERA? Will the support train needed for the MPF and a light infantry unit be a logistical burden? All in all, the MPF is an expedient way to get the required capability operational. The ZTQ-15 is a purpose designed as a tank, not a modified infantry fighting vehicle. There is no IFV version of the ZTQ-15, so the PLA has invested significantly in a bespoke solution and is likely significantly more expensive than if they had, say, modified a ZBD-04 with the same turret, especially with the associated logistics overheads that come with unique platforms. However, it does have a dedicated recovery vehicle based on the same chassis. And while it is designed to operate at high altitude, fitted with oxygen generators for the engine, it would be a mistake to think it is not also designed to operate in other types of complex terrain. One could envisage a scenario where elements of the 82nd Airborne, including the MPFs, are flown into the Western Pacific where they come up against the ZTQ-15. For a more detailed discussion and walk around of the MPF, see the video on the Chieftains channel linked below. That concludes today's briefing. Thank you for watching. Happy to take suggestions for future briefings from subscribers, so please subscribe, like and share. Until next time, Vale de Cero.